Hello, everyone. I see that the time is now past 12:32. I call this meeting, our October Congregational Meeting, to order. Jen?
People in attendance, we have a quorum.
How many?
31.
31. Thank you. We have been lucky enough to purchase a couple handheld mics, so we have one that Jen's using to walk around with. So if you have something that you'd like to say, make sure that you wait for the mic to come by, and she'll hand you the mic. Next slide, please. All right. Here is our agenda. Begin with our approval, then the invocation, reading of the May 2025 minutes, our treasurer's report, presentation of the 2026 estimate of missions funding, council nominations, our new mission statement vote, notification of ELCA required constitutional changes, a Detroit Street property discussion, and then announcements, closing prayer, finalized by an adjournment. Council has moved to approve this agenda. May I have a second? Seconded by Wes. All those in favor, please use your green, red, or white cards. Any opposed, you can use your red cards. Motion passes. Invocation. Let us pray. Loving God, in holy baptism, you have gathered us together across all human divisions and reconciled us to yourself in one body through the cross. Strengthen us now by your presence, that our thoughts and our actions may be rooted and grounded in your love for us. God of abundance, you have poured out a large measure of earthly blessings. Our table is richly furnished, our cup overflows, and we live in safety and security. Teach us to set our hearts on you and not on these material blessings. Keep us from becoming captivated by prosperity, and grant us in wisdom to use your blessings to your glory and to the service of humankind. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord. Amen. I invite Michelle up to the lectern to read the 2025 May Congregational Meeting minutes.
Special Congregational Meeting, May 18th, 2025. Pastor Krentz called the meeting to order at 12:36 p.m. A quorum was established with 50 members present. Pastor Krentz reviewed the meeting agenda. No questions regarding the agenda were brought forward. Amy Gallagher made a motion to approve the agenda, seconded by Glenda Betteridge, passed unanimously. Pastor Krentz provided the invocation. John Andrew read the minutes of the February 23rd, 2025 annual congregational meeting. One correction was suggested regarding the number of fonts at the entrance. 2 stoops had been installed, not 4. Nicholas made a motion to approve the minutes with a suggested correction, seconded by Jennifer Best, voted and passed with 1 abstention. Capital Improvement Endowment Fund bylaw changes. Greg Betteridge presented the proposed Capital Improvement Endowment Fund bylaw changes, including 1, reinstatement of paragraph 5, article 2, stating that in the event that the preceding items inclusive from 1 to 4 have been completed with completely in a total, that in that event the remaining funds should be used for any and all church purposes, proposed and adopted by 2/3 majority vote of the church members. 2, distribution of the operating expenses as needed must be less than or equal to 30% of the approved annual operating budget. 3, the principal floor to be set at an annual 3 times the approved operating budget of the church, therefore rising it from the current floor level, the current floor of $650,000 to $675,000. The congregation discussed the proposed bylaw changes at length. The ballot was conducted with 37 votes for the proposed bylaw change and 15 against. With greater than 2/3 of the congregation voting but for the bylaw changes, the vote passed. Detroit Street property. 2 proposals for the Detroit property were brought before the congregation for consideration. The first proposal was to sell the property. The second proposal is to keep the property, make needed repairs, and use it as a parsonage for the pastor. Much discussion was held with confusion among the attending congregation members to what was being asked of them to vote on. It was clarified with the discussion was intended to be more of a survey rather than a vote regarding the path forward for Detroit Street property. Jerry Lampola motioned to table the discussion, and Janice Boyle seconded. A vote was held with 42 votes to table discussion, 9 votes to conduct the survey, and 1 abstention and the discussion was therefore tabled. Solar panel installation. Pastor Krenz presented additional information from Opal Energy for the installation of the solar panels on the roof of the education wing of the church. The 75 panels would generate 101% of the electricity used by the church and come with a 30-year guarantee. The full cost of the installation is approximately $121,688. There is a federal tax credit available in 2025 to offset the installation cost at 40% of the cost, or $48,675. The state of Ohio also has an annual cash incentive of $172. Projected electricity savings is $6,732 annually and would cover the cost of the installation cost in about 10 years. Pastor Krenz reviewed the church electric bill to clarify what costs are being replaced by solar energy. Pastor Krenz opened the floor to questions, and discussions were held. The vote was held with 30 votes for the solar panel installation and 22 votes against. The vote passed. Pastor Krenz approved the closing prayer, provided the closing prayer, followed by the reciting of the Lord's Prayer. Nicholas Mason made a motion to adjourn, second by Jerry Lampola, voted and passed unanimously. The meeting was adjourned at 2:07 p.m.
Thank you, Michelle. Any corrections, additions, or questions regarding the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion Nicholas, seconded by Mike Malis. All those in favor, or please vote with your red and green cards. Green is in favor, red is opposed, white is abstention. Seeing one no vote, passes. The minutes are approved as received. Thank you. We go next to our treasurer's report. I invite Stacy to the lectern. That's okay.
All right, through the month, well, let's talk about the month of September first. Offerings in the month of September were $6,508. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. That is the lowest I have seen in my entire tenure in this church for a month of giving. Other income was $401, so total money coming in the month of September was $6,909. So year to date, we have had $87,979 in offerings and $6,627 in other income for a total of $94,606. Keep in mind the approved budget that we had set for 2025 was a total of $192,425. So if I just annualize our offerings through the month of September, we're looking at bringing in $117,300. So a significant deficit to the budget that we approved. Any questions before I go to the next slide? Okay. So key points. Our average monthly giving is $9,775, where it needs to be closer to $16,000. Our average monthly expenses are $15,150, and that's through some savings and things that we're putting in place to try and not spend money in certain areas. I'll get to that then. So we're running at a monthly deficit of about $5,300. So to date, the expenses that have not been covered by offerings have been paid from the remaining Sandusky Street rental income. And it was that much because we were fortunate during COVID that we didn't have to touch that fund for quite a long time. So contributions from fundraisers, that was a sum total of $3,210. So for all those people that do the fundraisers and contribute to the general fund, thank you. And $17,800 from the Capital Improvement Endowment Fund, which is below the threshold, annual threshold so far that we have set. So our average monthly use of the Capital Improvement Endowment Fund is $5,100 versus our deficit of $5,300. And just as a reminder, the fund utilization is capped at $57,730, which is really closer to $4,810 per month. That's a lot of numbers, so again, if you have any questions, bring them up now before I go to the next slide. Okay, Nicholas? So some things that we have been doing in 2025, the areas that we reduced spending, not my favorite areas, but it's the things we had to do. So we have not paid benevolence to the synod. We reinstituted that in August. So versus budget, we saved $10,465. Historically, we gave 10% of our offerings to synod. We have reduced that to 5%. So I am sending between $300 and $400 per month to the Northeast Ohio Synod. With Bobby's vacancy, currently until our new organist starts, we've saved $630. And then church administration, which is like janitorial supplies, office supplies, worship supplies, all the things that we need to run the church, we've saved $1,700 versus what we had budgeted. However, on the flip side, our expenses that have been higher than budget, our utility costs are $1,700 higher than budget. When you look at the rates, it's not because of the kilowatt per hour rate or the MCF rate for the gas, it is utilization. We are using more electric, more gas, more water. We've had a couple $100 water bills, and it's just through all the things that are happening at the church. We're open more, we're using more. And then property maintenance and insurance, we're over budget by $6,450, and that is primarily repairs we have had to make that were not forecasted, such as the entryway here at the sanctuary, a couple other smaller things that have added up. So our 2025 offering September year-to-date is 35% below where we need to be. That was all the slides I had for the treasurer's report. I'm happy to answer any questions. Okay. We have to pass the treasurer's report.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented. Motion by Jen, seconded by Glenda. All those in favor, use your green cards. Those not in favor, use your red cards. Those abstained, use your white cards, please.
All green.
Seeing all green, treasurer report is accepted as presented. I'll invite Stacy to remain at the lectern for the 2026 estimate of mission funding.
We're going to show you a video first. It's a short one, I promise. Maybe.
Every week, Lutherans across the country gather together to worship. Our congregations are our home base. As members, we experience vital relationships with God, with one another, and with our community. Together, as the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, we are one church in more than 9,000 places with nearly 3.5 million members. We do God's work with our hands, achieving more together than we could ever do alone. We're reminded of our connection each time we gather at the Lord's table. As church, we are God's household. Financially, we support this work with each gift we put in the offering plate. Thank you for your faithful support. But how are these gifts shared and utilized? When you give an offering, almost all of that money stays with your congregation to support its ministries, leaders, and expenses. A small but very important portion of it, approximately 6% on average, is passed along to your local synod. This part of the offering is called mission support. Your synod helps to unite the congregations in your area. By working together, your synod makes sure that your congregation has the leaders it needs, and it provides a place for everyone to work together on important local initiatives. Each of our 65 synods, in consultation with the church-wide organization, decides on a portion of mission support received from congregations to share for church-wide ministries. For the numbers people out there, here's how it breaks down. Recently, ELCA members gave a total of $1.7 billion in regular unrestricted offerings at their congregations. Of this total, our 65 synods received and stewarded $52 million, or 3%. The church-wide organization received and stewarded $43 million, or 2.5% of those total offerings. Thank you for your generosity. The church-wide portion of your mission support is the foundation and fuel to do God's work in the world, and this work is done on behalf of all of us. These funds are the primary way that we grow the church and share the love of Christ with more people in more places than before. Together, we're supporting hundreds of new ministries currently under development in the United States, and we're working together to foster networking for our ethnic and multicultural communities that all may share a place at the table. Forming leaders for the future of this church is a priority. Starting with children and youth, we offer events, resources, and tools to nurture faith. Together, we look to identify and encourage those considering a call to rostered ministry. Your mission support dollars support the work of 7 ELCA seminaries and 26 colleges and universities. In addition, we train hundreds of leaders dedicated to collaboration, innovation, creativity, and inclusion, all in support of vital congregations. By bringing our leaders and ideas together, our church continues its long-standing leadership in interfaith and ecumenical dialogue. So we replace fear and misunderstanding with a deeper appreciation of our common ground. We're a publicly engaged church, striving for justice for those on the margins, promoting policy change and action at every level of government. And together, we support social ministry organizations, such as Lutheran Social Services in America, which impacts the lives of 1 in 50 Americans. Our impact goes beyond the United States. As a member of the Lutheran World Federation, we're in communion with 148 member churches. Along with our synods, we're directly connected to 120 companions in other countries. A significant portion of your mission support accompanies our global companions to build new churches, equip leaders, and provide for the needs of the community. In support of this work, your mission support helps send ELCA missionaries around the world, including young adults in global mission. These missionaries are the hands and feet of Jesus, serving, learning, and returning home with a valuable perspective on church and society. There's no better place to help do God's work in the world than by supporting the tremendous and creative ministry going on across our own church. Thank you for your mission support and your gifts of time and talent. We are Church for the Sake of the World, and together we are making a difference.
Okay, we'll start going over the 2026 estimate of mission funding with the salary expenses. So in 2025, our budgeted salary expenses were $127,960. We are proposing for 2026 that they be $129,896. And with some context around this, the 2026 salaries for the staff do include cost of living adjustments. They did not in 2025, so we are giving the staff, or proposing to give the staff raises this year, coming year. They've gone a year without, so, and the cost of living, as everybody knows, has significantly increased. The pastor's salary has increased also following along with the cost of living adjustments following the Synod guidelines. We again went through the other pastor benefits, which is part of the full compensation package, and did reduce some additional benefits to partially offset that salary increase. So the cost of living adjustment for 2026 will be issued after October 15th. I don't know when yet with the government shutdown, but it is expected to be between 2.7 and 2.8%. So for the purposes of what I am presenting today, we utilized 2.7% on those salary adjustments. Any questions on salaries? Okay, next slide, Nicholas. I'm not going to read every single number individually, but I will try to highlight some things. So property costs are going to be higher for 2026 at $37,000 versus roughly $35,000 this year. That is due to an anticipated increase in our insurance cost. I used 7%, but we know it's going to go up. It goes up every year. It does factor in as well, though, a reduction in our electricity cost because the solar panel project should be in place at the beginning of next year. I believe we were conservative when we estimated the reduction at only 35% reduction of our electricity costs rather than 50%, which is what we're really expecting. So we wanted to be conservative on the budget presentation. We lowered parish administration by $500. Again, that's all the things I talked about before with like office supplies, janitorial supplies, worship supplies. Well, no, I take that back. Worship and music has worship supplies. We also lowered that based on actual costs from this year. Council, stewardship, and miscellaneous is flat. Christian education was lowered by $100, and then you can see salaries. So the 2026 subtotal is $180,322 versus $177,425 for this year. Next slide, please. Oh, there's my assumptions. Ha! Yeah, so if you take that subtotal and we incorporate in our biblical tithe, which I said is between $300 and $400 a month, we used $5,000. We're proposing a full budget of for 2026 of $185,322. which is roughly $6,900 lower than this year's budget. Now's the time for questions and discussion.
And I do hereby open the floor for questions and discussion regarding the proposed 2026 estimate of mission funding.
Jen, come over.
Because the electricity is expected to go down, are we on target to have that completed by the end of the year?
Yes, we are actually hopefully having it installed the end of this month.
The end of
This month,
this
October.
month?
Yes.
Okay.
That is what they have told me, that they are working with engineers and the county, state, and local permitting offices, so they should have everything installed by the end of this year, or this month, excuse me.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, Mark. Anything else? Suzanne, let Jen come over.
Are we going to find out sooner than later about if the existing roof can handle all the solar panel weight?
Let me get away from that speaker. Yes, I'm trying to not. So the question was, are we having any idea on whether the existing roof can support the solar panels? On D-Day, I think it was Thursday of D-Day weekend, one of the engineers who installs the solar panels did come by and check out our roof. Our roof is perfect. It's well engineered. It can support the panels very well. It is not too old to have the panels. So there is no work that needs to be done on the roof to install the solar panels. Seeing no other questions,
Just turn your little mic.
okay. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to mute the lectern. That helps. Remember, you can bring any budget question between now and December to any of the finance team members or the church council. Reminder, the finance team consists of myself, Stacy, Chris, and Janice Boyle. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. All right. I'm still. We also, during this meeting, open our council nominations. There's another video, short video. Let us watch that.
What is that? Or should I say, who are they? This is your church council members. Well, these aren't the actual church council members. These are pictures of the church council members. And this is a picture of your pastoral leaders, Kristen with long hair, me when I'm 13. And those pictures here are reminders as you come in door that these are some of the leaders of the church. The church council is set up as the leadership board of St. Paul's. And they do the visioning, and they make sure that all the other input that comes from committees and places like the lead action team, which we talked about a few weeks ago, all of those things, they kind of make sure that it fits in line with what we're supposed to be doing, what God's called us to do, where God's called us to be, make sure that it fits in the financial plan, and they kind of review it on behalf of the entire congregation. They're also available if somebody has a question or a concern or a comment. They can go to a council member, you could go to a council member and talk to them, and then we can sit it down together and talk about that. They are a leadership board. We're very thankful. They serve terms that I think are about 3 years, and they rotate to about 3 people off each year, and they meet once a month together, and then we take the summer off, and that's our leadership board, and that's who that is.
Cute little video made by St. Paul's Lutheran somewhere. Yes, so our council, the church council is the business board, if you will, of the church. It does your work, so we don't have to have congregational meetings every month. Would you like that? Would you want a congregational meeting every month? No. So this year, 4 spots are opening up on the church council. They're all 3-year terms. Just a reminder, our Constitution has all church council members elected from the congregation to be at-large members. And we elect the officers from the church council during our first meeting of the year, which is in January. Our floor, the floor is now open between now and December meeting, the Sunday before. Get away from that speaker. The Sunday before the December congregational meeting, which is going to be December the 14th. So the floor is open now for nominations. It is recommended, although not required, to talk with the nominee before nominating them. Are there any nominations immediately from the floor that you'd like to nominate? All right. If you want to be nominated or have somebody in mind and you have talked with them about being on church council, you may notify any member of the church council, current church council, which includes myself, Michelle, Stacy, Nicholas, Taylor, JT, Mark, Kathy, and Pearl Ann. Okay. Moving on. Our new mission statement. As you've noticed throughout the year, we have been working on and refining and perhaps creating a new mission statement. The final 2 are those that are not only on your ballots, but on the screen. The first mission statement option is all welcome, all fed, all loved. And the second option is actually the current mission statement. We are a Christian community united by God's call to serve others by sharing the love of Christ. We will have a celebration to launch the mission statement at a later date, probably in December. A mission statement is something that focuses us as a church into where we want to be. This came from all the surveys that we have done, through discussions with some outside help, as well as discussions within the church council. You all voted on the top 6 that came out of the from those discussions, and then narrowing them down to the final 2. Are there any questions regarding the mission statements? All right. At this time, I invite you. At this time, I invite you to use your blue ballots to vote for either mission statement: all welcome, all fed, all loved, or we are a Christian community united by God's call to serve others by sharing the love of Christ. Heidi, will you be willing to help count these? And Mike? He was at the very beginning of this. The church council decided not to use the person outside of the church to do this project. But he was consulted at the very beginning. He kind of helped us frame the pathway forward. Need some background music. No, not Jeopardy.
Mission statement vote is for all are welcome, all fed, all loved, 11. And for the second one, we are a Christian community united by God's call. We have 20.
Thank you very much. So our mission statement continues to be, we are a Christian community united by God's call to serve others by sharing the love of Christ. Thank you, everyone. Very well. Our next item is notification of constitutional amendments. A reminder, every 3 years, the church-wide of the ELCA gets together and does assembly, and they do modifications and amendments to the model constitution for congregations approved, and this was the changes that were approved. We will send out the actual changes to the amendments, but this kind of gives you an overview. One amendment does not apply, as our Constitution already has the language within it. Two amendments are formatted for clarity without any substantial meaning change. One amendment is formalizing a practice that we already do within the church. Three amendments are formatted to reference church constitution rather than the synod constitution. Three amendments are edited for consistency in constitutional language. Two amendments restore the phrase proclaiming God's love as duties for rostered ministers. One amendment makes an optional provision that is now required, and two amendments soften requirements of synod due to current pastoral availability. As there's really nothing of true substance in here, it should be easy to approve these. But again, we will send out with the notification for the December constitutional congregational meeting. We will send out the actual amendments to you all. It will be at that meeting we will approve or reject the amendments. Yeah, so the statement was we are required to give you 30-day notice. These came out and were approved by church council just last month, not 30 days. So you will have at least a 30-day notice for change. Because these come down from church-wide assembly, they only need one vote rather than the standard 2 vote for amendments to our Constitution. All righty. Next slide, please. At this time, I return the floor over to Stacy and to Michelle as we have a Detroit Street property discussion. As this discussion involves my current living situation, I have opted to step out as I did for the council discussion on this. I am available, phone right there. Thank you.
So before I start talking about the bullet points for Detroit Street, I'm going to have Michelle give everybody an update on Sandusky Street because it's relevant to this conversation, okay?
Sandusky Street has been sold. We should be closing either today, tomorrow, or Wednesday. We accepted a bid of $104,000. After closing costs and all related fees, we should approximately get a little over $93,000 from the proceeds from the sale of Sandusky Street. Any questions? Oh, just wait a minute. Wait for the microphone.
Go ahead, ask again.
Did we originally pay for that property, if I may ask?
You know, Mike, that's a good question. I don't know, because that was before I was in this role. I didn't pull all those records out. I do know that on the public auditor's site, its appraised value was lower than the $104,000 for what we were paying insurance against and property taxes. Mark?
On the auditor's website, it does, if you look, it does show the purchase price. I'm thinking it was somewhere in the $89,000.
I think you're right, Mark, but I'm not positive. I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah. Now, Michelle, you said that the purchase price is 104, and we're only going to net 93 closing cost. Why are the closing costs some $11,000?
Some of, title insurance, closing cost, agent fees. Okay, closing costs, that included agency fees, insurance, title fees. We do have to prorate the rent to, since The new owners will be taking possession for this month. We don't get the full month of October, so prorated from the time that they take possession to the end of the month, we have to pay them that part of the rent back. Same with, we have to give them the security deposits that we provided for them. I didn't bring the complete breakdown, but it's the commission, it's title insurance, it's closing cost fees that include delivery of documents if they need to be, notary services, the title search, everything like that. So it's quite expensive. It kind of, wow.
Do you know what the commission percent was?
6%.
6?
6%.
Any other questions about Sandusky? Okay, we'll start talking about Detroit Street. It really is echoing. I know, turn the gain down. In the month of September, the church council met and we held some discussions regarding a path forward for the Detroit Street property. We talked about 3 options. Can everybody hear me okay? Because I hear the echoes going. Perfect. So option 1 was to sell the property. Option 2 was to retain the property, renovate it, because it does need renovating, and renting it. And option 3 was talking about retaining the property, renovating it, and utilizing it as a parsonage for the church. So coming out of those discussions, next slide, please. What council aligned with was that selling the Detroit Street property is not desired, and that is based primarily on feedback from several congregation members that feel that we need to retain ownership of that property, not only just for its location, but we listened, I guess is all I'm saying. So council aligned with the fact that we don't want to sell it. We need to keep the property. We also aligned that renting the property should not be a focus of the church. It is not our mission. It is not what the church is here for. And then the third point was that having a parsonage in the community of Conneaut that we owned would ensure that any pastor of this church, now and in the future, will be located in the Conneaut community, which I think is extremely important. So some key points about parsonages. The pay structure for the pastor is different than what we have in our current budget and what we proposed for next year. I'll give a little more. So the compensation package for a pastor with a parsonage includes a base salary, a furnishings allowance, so he can furnish the house, and what's called a home equity allowance, which is basically pre-tax money that is set aside in his benefits package that allows him, when he leaves the area, to have some nest egg to be able to purchase his own home. Does that make sense? So the current package has a base salary plus a housing allowance. And the base salaries for both of those packages are much different. So I'm going to get to some numbers later too, because I want you to see how this impacts the church from a financial standpoint, as well as just having the pastor in the community. So the extra things that we need to add to a budget if we elect to go forward with a parsonage would include paying for the parsonage utilities. That's the church's responsibility. The maintenance of the home, so your general furnace maintenance, furnace filters, inspections, those types of things. The insurance and the property taxes, which we do pay today, but it would be coming out of our general fund and not out of a savings account that's paid by the renters.
Mind you, we haven't had renters in Detroit Street.
I know, we haven't had renters for almost 2 years now, so. Okay, next slide, please. So here's how it looks when you put it to the numbers to the budget. Our current proposed budget has salaries of $129,896. If we convert Detroit Street to a parsonage, the salaries component of the budget drops to $112,875. Now, part of it goes up on the flip side of the expenses because we're paying for maintaining the property and all the utilities and everything else. So the total impact to the budget, so our proposed budget for 26 was 185,322. It decreases to 180,094. And that's still following the Synod guidelines for churches with a parsonage for your pastor. So at this point, the church council is motioning to the congregation to renovate the Detroit Street property and utilize it as a parsonage. Can I have a second? We'll get to questions in a second. Can I have a second to that motion? Glenda. The floor is now open for questions and discussion. Let's see how it goes. I don't think it'll be that bad. Go ahead, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry, EJ. You're hiding right behind him. I just saw the microphone pop up over his shoulder.
Is the pastor, would he agree to have that as a parsonage, number one? And if he does, number two would be, what renovations would he like to have?
Okay.
And number three, how much do those renovations, how much are they going to cost?
Okay. Answer to question number one is he is willing to live in the house as a parsonage. We've crossed that bridge. Question number two, we don't have a full renovation scope defined yet. We did have, I believe it was Mark, yourself, and Greg and Pastor went with an Amish contractor, construction person, and did go through Detroit Street. The renovations, it's not necessarily what Pastor Krenz would like, it's what we would like. It is our parsonage. I just want to put that in the framework. It is the church's parsonage. The pastor may have some input, but in my opinion, it would be, here's 5 flooring samples. Which one do you like? We get to choose, okay? And Mark, do you have any more, or Greg, to add to that from your tour of the home? Okay. What we are, you're getting into the second part of the motion. Yeah. In terms of how much is it going to cost, because we don't have a full scope, we don't have a firm number. But if this motion passes, the next one is a proposal on the maximum amount to spend for the renovations and where to get the funds from. Does that make sense, EJ? Okay. Up here, Jen. Chuck.
So what does that equate a month for the pastor to live there? Like as far as like if it was whatever you want to call it, rent or, so what's that equate? We're taking money from one to another. It looks like $5,000.
We're saving $5,000 out of our expense budget.
Okay. So you divide that by 12 to figure out what he's actually paying to live there?
He's not, that's the point. So right now, we give him $25,000 a year to pay rent or buy a home. That money then comes off the table. His base salary, which was $40,000, gets adjusted, I believe, to $46,000. That's what's recommended for 2026. And then he gets $1,000 annually that goes into his housing equity allowance, and he gets a $2,000 furnishings allowance that allows him to change light bulbs and things like that. And we pay for the utilities.
So we're saving $5,000.
Yes.
If we rented it out, we'd be getting like $7,000-$8,000 more.
But that is not an option.
Yeah. If we wanted to do that, you'd probably get about $1,000 a month out of the home. Hardly, yeah. Well, there's opportunity. Those are my best guesses right now. I had to estimate what the homeowner's insurance is going to cost. I had to estimate what the utilities are going to cost. Maybe lower. I kind of thought I went on the high end. I looked at my home and what I pay for homeowner's insurance, which is sizably bigger than this home, and I used the same number. I had to start somewhere to see if it even made sense from a financial standpoint.
And you based the utilities on what you use in your home. So you've got a family of 3 versus a family of...
Well, and if you look at the Detroit Street previous utility bills, it's reasonable. I just did my best scientific estimating. It could be. But I wanted to prove to myself before we talked to the congregation that it truly would be a savings to the church. Mark?
2 questions. You showed the difference in the budget for salaries and benefits would be a difference of about $17,000.
That's correct.
So why is the total savings on the budget only $5,000?
It's all those other things I talked about. Now we have to pay the utilities for Detroit Street, so those now go into the budget. They were never in the budget before. We have to pay the property taxes for Detroit Street. Those were never in the budget before. The insurance. We have a housing equity allowance that we have to give, which is not part of the salary, it's part of a different package. And the furnishings allowance. Those are all separate items now that are expense line items and not part of the pastor's personal compensation package.
So you think those would be equivalent to about $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year?
Yes.
Okay, second question. What if a future pastor doesn't want to live in that property?
And he wants to buy his own home?
Yes, or rent somewhere else. For whatever reason, that house doesn't appeal to the pastor. It may not be large enough, for example.
I would have to say then at that point, that is a bridge we would have to cross then and talk about what we want to do with the property. Because at that point now we're fully renovated, right? And we have many more options open to us than it just sitting idle right now, which, by the way, I pay $500 a year to keep that property vacant right now because I don't have water going to it. Very frustrating bill to write out. Any other questions or Nicholas?
So in response to Mark's valid question, if another pastor comes in and doesn't want that parsonage, I assure you all, us the next generation who will have to deal with that, as Pastor Josh likely plans to be here for quite some time, we'll do our best to make that decision.
All right,
Just
thanks,
to
Nicholas.
bring some reality.
Any other questions? All right, then at this time, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it, my bad. Where's my yellow slip?
I just have a question that if
I have it.
this does go through and we get to pick the layout, what you were saying, it's our property and we get to choose.
Correct.
And pastor is willing to live there. But
Yes.
what if what we choose doesn't make him happy?
I think we can work together to make that happen, Suzanne. I mean,
He's more than willing.
yeah.
He's committed to being here, he's committed to being in this community, and this is he feels this is his best. Pastor Josh is committed to being here. He's committed to being part of this church, he's committed to being our pastor. He wants to be in this community. We've discussed it with him. He really wants to live there. He will do whatever, working with us, we can make that a place for him.
And it would behoove us to renovate it into a nice property. So if we do ever want to sell it, it has seller or buyer appeal. All right, so I see Glenda, and then we'll get to you, Wes.
I was over there just a little bit ago. There's a few things that absolutely have to be done. So that's gonna fit in any floor plan we come up with. And most of the other things would be such minor variations that I don't think there's gonna be a big argument about the floor plan.
Okay? And over to Wes.
Where's the money from Sandusky going?
So when we voted as a congregation, back in whenever that was, to sell Sandusky Street, that money is to go into the Capital Improvement Endowment Fund. That's what we voted to put it into.
So that money would not be used to renovate Detroit Street?
It's the next discussion, only if we agree to make it a parsonage.
Okay.
There's some smart people in this room, though, let me tell you. EJ, I saw your hand this time.
I just don't think we're ready to vote on this because we do not have enough information on how much it would cost to even fix it up decently, let alone what the pastor wants.
So this is why we split this into 2 votes, EJ. And I respect your opinion 100%. The first vote for us was we need the congregation's support to say, yes, we want to convert Detroit Street into a parsonage. If the congregation's feeling, forget the cost or what the pastor wants at this point, if we don't want to own a parsonage as a church, then the next part of the discussion is irrelevant. So we need to decide, sitting here as a congregation, do we want to own a parsonage? I will tell you, it is more unique now than it used to be in the Lutheran Church. It used to be very common. There is probably only about 10%, Heidi's nodding her head up now, there's probably about only 10% of the churches in the ELCA here in Northeast Ohio that have parsonages. And I'm not trying to sway your vote any one way or the other. This is truly, do we want to own a parsonage? Kathy? I don't know why. That's a good question. I really don't know why. The church I grew up in had a parsonage. My parents' new church that they built on their farmland, they don't have a parsonage, so I don't know. Greg beat you up by a microsecond, Mark. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, just to clarify for me what you said just a few moments ago, this will be a 2-part discussion now.
Yes.
We will vote today whether or not we as a congregation want the Detroit Street property to be a parsonage.
Correct.
If we vote yes, then the second part would be to figure out through a bidding process, I would assume, what the costs would be, and then we come back to that question, can we? Is that a correct understanding?
The second part of the discussion would happen today if we vote yes to convert it to a parsonage. We have a proposal on a dollar amount for renovations for a not to exceed. But again, I don't want to talk about that until we decide in our hearts, do we want to own a parsonage?
Okay, so we will do both today?
Yes,
okay,
we will.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Back to Mark.
Just to answer, I think it was Mike's question about, or maybe Wes's question about why pastors don't, why churches don't offer parsonages. Richard Bowen didn't want to live in a parsonage because he wanted to own the house when he retired. And I think that's the feeling with a lot of pastors. They didn't want to retire and be homeless.
Well, and that's why the Synod made some guideline changes, and they have that housing equity allowance now that is part of their compensation package, so that they have something to be able to own their own home when they get out of the parsonage.
Now, did you say that equity allowance was just $1,000 a year?
I did, but I'm going to have to look that up and clarify that. I know it's part of it. I can't remember the exact amount, but there is a housing equity allowance to give the pastor.
Okay. Now, my last question is, if we vote not to make this into a parsonage, aren't we still going to discuss about renovating it and what the cost would be for that?
It's not a discussion for today, but to your point, Mark, we will have to discuss that. I think we have to, since this if it does not pass, we would have to go back at the next council meeting and talk about where we want to go from here.
Yeah. Because you said the council voted not to sell it. So
Correct.
So if we keep it, we're going to have to renovate it one way or the other.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nicholas?
So to elaborate on Mark's comment on council did not vote to sell that, we did that because of previous reactions about Detroit Street, if we even mentioned selling it. We're all very attached to Detroit Street, so that is why selling the house outright is not an option that we have presented as a council to you as congregation, in case anyone was confused on that matter.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Then I'm going to ask everyone, your yellow slips have a question on there: should Detroit Street be turned into a parsonage? If you could vote yes or no. There you go. I know. Glenda, could you help Jen count then, please? Thank you. Oh no, his thing ended at the end of September. Yes, Bud. Go Steelers. They're doing better than Penn State. That's all I have to say. They went from rank number 2 to the toilet. Okay. Anyway. Mark and I can have some empathetic discussions about Penn State football later. Okay. I'm giving him an update.
With a vote of 24, the assembly has voted to make it a parsonage.
So 24 a parsonage, 11 against?
6 against.
6 against. That means 5 abstentions, 4 abstentions. Because Pastor's
No, we
not
only
here.
have 31 here today. And Pastor stepped out.
24-4. Oh, I can't. Never mind.
Twen-
I thought it was 20.
24 and 6.
Got it.
Yeah.
Never mind. Words matter. All right, so we're moving on to the second part of the discussion. So as we talked about this during our council meeting, we talked about how much is it going to cost to renovate it, how large of a scope should we consider for the renovations, and this is the motion that we aligned on to bring to the congregation, and that is to use the proceeds from the sale of the Sandusky Street property, plus, if needed, additional funds from the Capital Improvement Endowment Fund not to exceed $100,000 in sum total for the renovation of the Detroit Street property. That number was arrived at based on feedback from Mark, from Greg, from Pastor on just what types of things need to be addressed. New carpeting, painting, maybe looking at the electrical, and see if it needs to be upgraded. That doesn't mean we would spend all $100,000. It is a not to exceed number. Wait for the microphone. No. It has to get on the recording. I have one.
It'll be a while before, what?
What?
Oh, he gave me the mic. Okay.
He's got it.
I got a mic.
Sorry.
We won't have to necessarily put 100,000 in, possibly that's a cap, but when would we be able to find out a more accurate? Because that can be adjusted in different ways, I'm thinking, with volunteer help and whatever. No? Michelle's saying no, but isn't that
Well,
part of the deal?
in theory, Ron, it could be. However, we also don't want it to take a long time because of people that are, God love the volunteers.
I got
I
you.
volunteer for a lot too, but it's around their particular schedules. We would
I
rather have a,
understand. Yeah,
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor.
Sorry, Ron, I was looking at the hand microphone.
Any other questions? EJ, did this answer your question from earlier? If there are no other questions and discussion, Jen just got done handing out a purple ballot. And if you could please vote yes or no for, can you put the slide back one, Nicholas, for the motion in total? I'll read it again. To use the proceeds from the sale of the Sandusky Street property plus additional funds from the Capital Improvement Endowment Fund as needed, not to exceed $100,000 in sum total for the renovation of the Detroit Street property. Mark? Yeah. Thanks, Jen.
The money from the sale is going into the endowment fund, so I don't understand the necessity of this question. If it's going into the endowment fund will pay for the renovations. So why are we earmarking this money, this $93,000?
So we haven't received the money yet. So we have not placed it into the endowment fund yet. And it was more to inform the congregation that we're not dipping into the endowment fund and spending an inordinate amount of money on Detroit Street, that we were going to use those proceeds plus the balance from the endowment fund. Does that make sense? Or did I dance around your question?
I still don't understand why this is a separate issue, because we've already voted to put the money into the endowment fund, and we would use the endowment fund for any improvements over there. So yes, we haven't closed, but
Okay.
Michelle said it's closing this week.
It is. I mean, are you proposing we modify the motion?
No, I don't even see the necessity of this, because if it's going into the endowment fund, The endowment fund is there to make the improvement, or pay for the improvements.
I hear you. I think the motion needs to address the not to exceed total amount spent, though.
Well, I understand that, but this ballot says, should we use the proceeds from Sandusky Street to pay for the renovations?
That's very, okay, thank you.
So this kind of came about to help clarify. Yes, we did indeed approve to put the proceeds from Sandusky into the capital improvement fund, but this is to clarify that the $93,000 for the proceeds is to go to Detroit Street and not anything else. Does that make sense? I know the ballot may be a little confusing, but this is the motion that we use the proceeds from Sandusky Street to help out build Detroit Street. Did the endowment committee discuss that? Was that part of the last meeting? I wasn't there, so.
It was not.
Okay.
Greg wasn't there either. You were looking at the wrong person. You know what? I take that back, Pastor. It was briefly, and that was only to let the Morgan Stanley representative that came to our meeting know that we had a large sum of money coming from the sale of the property. Yet to be determined on how much and when. Yeah, and that's what I was trying to say also. I understand.
This ballot doesn't say that.
We can vote with our cards if you would like instead of ballot, if that's what the congregation is comfortable with. Can I make a motion to vote with our cards instead of the ballot and have somebody second it?
Seconded by Glenda.
Seconded by Glenda. All those in favor to vote with your cards? All right, I see all greens.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to revise the motion to the floor, Mark, to your point, that we are going to renovate the Detroit Street property for use as a parsonage and with a sum total not to exceed $100,000 for the renovation. Is that in agreement? Can I have a second? Wes? Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, or please signify with your green cards, against with your red. Pastor, yours is white. Is it supposed to be green? No, it's white. He's abstaining, okay. I see all greens and one abstention. The motion has passed. Thank you all for your questions and your patience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the next item of business. Is there closing prayer? How about that? Actually, we have some announcements before our closing prayer. A reminder that our next congregational meeting is December the 14th. We will send out, of course, our amendments to the Constitution, as well as a notice for the meeting and a temporary agenda, which we kind of have idea, but we don't know for sure. That has to be approved by council. Other announcements include, remember, quilt raffle is now going on. Sign up if you would like to make soup or baked goods for the election day. Trying something new for a fundraiser on election day as everybody's coming in and out, especially as it gets colder, for our soups and volunteers to help run that. You don't have to organize anything, you just be there and make sales. There was another announcement. NISWA is continuing. Your last day to order is next Sunday. Remember, you can see Suzanne or Jen in the office, but next Sunday is your last day to order NISWA. Any other announcements for the good of the congregation? All righty. We are partnering with Corpus Christi to do a Thanksgiving dinner. More information will be coming out on that. All righty. Let us pray. Loving God, in holy baptism, you have gathered us together across all human divisions and reconciled us to yourself in one body through the cross. We thank you for all that you have first given us, our time, our talents, and our possessions. We thank you for being with us during this congregational meeting. We ask that you be with us as we leave this place until we gather again. It is in your name we pray, the prayer you have taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Nicholas, seconded by EJ. All those in favor, use your green cards. Those opposed, use your red cards. Abstentions, use your white cards. All approved unanimously. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.